Olivia, it's a pleasure to see you again, and I hope you are well. I suppose you are quite busy with the recent changes to Azerbaijan's competition law. Can you give us some insights into what is going on in Baku?
Hi, Maren. Thank you for having me. Indeed, we have been on precipice of big changes in the competition law in Azerbaijan for several years now, and that moment is finally here. A few months ago, on 1st July 2024, a new competition code has become effective, ending the reign of the old anti-monopoly activity law that has lasted more than 30 years. It appears that the legislator, while crafting the competition code, aimed to align it with the EU competition law, which is quite exciting.
If we focus on merger control, what is in store for our clients in this area?
Well, as you can imagine, with the adoption of the new competition code, the regime has been completely overhauled and now provides a comprehensive framework for assessment and approval of mergers. The previous regime was rather vague and definitely outdated, and it did not provide clear or consistent procedures for notifying and reviewing mergers, which has created significant uncertainty for businesses. The new framework, on the other hand, introduces a number of significant changes in this area.
So, what transactions can be caught and when?
Well, the new framework defines what constitutes concentration of undertaking in quite detail, and it covers not only the acquisition of control over another undertaking, but also creation of joint venture, the acquisition of assets, or the right that confers the decisive influence of undertaking another undertaking. It specifies the conditions under which a concentration must be notified to the competition authority, which includes several thresholds, financial thresholds that trigger a notification. Without naming all the various thresholds, what I can say is that the thresholds are based on the combined turnover of undertakings concerned in Azerbaijan locally or worldwide, and they depend on the size and type of the merger. What I can also say that the thresholds are written directly in the competition code, which means down the line a few years with the inflation, we expect more and more mergers to be caught to be triggered for notification under this rule. So since the law is quite new, we are looking forward to see how the competition authority is handling it going forward.
So, if a company needs to notify a transaction, how does the process look like in Azerbaijan?
Well, the new rules establish a two-phased review process for the competition authority in order to conduct a thorough assessment of the merger. And the aim is to determine whether or not proposed merger would distort the competitive landscape, particularly by creating or strengthening a position. So the competition authority is set to consider various factors. These include market structures, actual and potential competition, as well as the market position of the undertakings involved.
And what are the possible outcomes of such a review process? Are they similar to those in the EU?
Yes, they are interestingly quite similar to the EU proceedings. For example, the new framework introduces a system of sanctions and remedies for the failure to notify or comply with the competition authority's decisions. These include fines, invalidation of the merger, even divestiture of assets or shares.
Well, it seems that the system is actually quite similar to the EU regime. Are there any exceptions to the notification obligation that are worth highlighting?
Of course, there are a few exceptions in which the transaction does not need to be notified. These include, for example, any mergers or transfer of shares during the bankruptcy proceedings, or if it's related to a temporary acquisition of shares by financial institutions.
That's good news for companies. But what about intra-group transactions? I understand that those will still be subject to scrutiny, right?
Yes, You're quite right, but we need to distinguish the level of scrutiny here. So the intragroup mergers are no longer fall under the merger control regulations, which means there are no pre-merger notification required. However, companies should still know that even such mergers must be notified to the competition authority post-merger. And there is a deadline of within 7 business days, which is quite short, following the closing to ensure that regulatory compliance and transparency is in place.
So quite some changes in Azerbaijan. Many thanks, Ulrike.
Sure, anytime.